my name is Genevieve Carcano. I am a double major in English and Humanities and Cultural Studies. I am from Lufkin, Texas, and I am currently living in Magnolia E. I do know I want to go to grad school, and I probably will end up working somewhere in higher education. Hey, well, I do have an on-campus job. I tutor athletes in the Athletic Center. I also have an internship in the Marshall Student Center at the Center Art Gallery on the second floor. I try to go to as many on-campus events as I can. You know, the Campus Activities Board, other organizations are always hosting events. I'm in a couple clubs like the Creative Writing Club and the Baking Club and Women in Leadership and Philanthropy, so I try to get involved wherever I can. I like living on campus because of its proximity to all the events I'm talking about and the ability to build a community with people around you, especially if you live in like a living learning community or something like that. You can always find people that are similar to you and that want to experience on-campus events with you. This scholarship impacts me by freeing up a lot of my time. If you have financial obstacles, often you spend a lot of time trying to rectify those obstacles. And if you get a scholarship, it eases some of that stress off your shoulders and it allows you to take on more opportunities for yourself rather than constantly worrying about like external stressors. I would advise people that are going to apply for this scholarship, always try to find a work-life balance between your academics and your actual life. You know, get involved on campus, always try to get out and find new experiences because that's what college is really all about. This scholarship supports me by letting me take on more opportunities for myself instead of just focusing on work. For example, I studied abroad last year. I volunteered at an on-campus food bank for all of last year. So I really was just able to explore more things when I was taking less hours at work. And to the people who donated this scholarship, I am so grateful. I really appreciate that you were willing to invest in me and my academic success. It really means a lot to me, and I've been able to do a lot because of you, and I really want to pay it forward in the future.
Hello and welcome to USF Housing Live. I'm your host, Elizabeth Fry, the Assistant Director for Communications with Housing and Residential Education here at the beautiful University of South Florida in Tampa. We have a really exciting episode planned tonight to help you prepare for college. And throughout the season, we'll be talking all about on-campus housing, dining, financial aid, and so much more. So be sure to join us every other Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. to hear from campus experts and also have your questions answered right here live on the show. Tonight, we'll be joined by the Associate Director of Operations and Outreach for Housing and Residential Education, and we're going to answer all of your questions about the housing application and roommate groups. So be sure to drop any questions in the comments from wherever you're watching, and we'll be sure to answer as many as we can throughout tonight's show. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce David Kloiber. He's the Associate Director of Operations and Outreach for Housing and Residential Education. Dave, thanks for joining us tonight. Nice to have you back.
I'm glad to be here.
We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight, a lot of questions to get to.
Isn't it your first season? Your first full season?
Season 10, too. What a way to kick it off.
Wow.
And what a way to kick it off, but by talking about applications. We have a lot of people who are excited to live on campus. So talk to us about the application process. I know we opened the fall spring application back in November. So do students still have time to apply if they want to live on campus?
They do have time to apply. Obviously, the earlier that you apply, the better your chances are for getting housing. If our students who are continuing, remember back to last year, we had a very large demand, a high number of applications. Mm-hmm. And I think when all the dust settled, we had over 9,000 applications. Now, we only have 6,400 and change beds. And so that's a lot more applications than we have beds. And so we weren't able to actually house everybody who wanted housing last year.
And so that's why we tell people apply early.
Yes.
The application is open, so now would be that time to apply if they want to live on campus.
Tonight.
That's exactly right. So it's still open, but
Yeah.
Is there a deadline as to when we close that application?
Well, you know, the deadline really it's a moving deadline. It really depends on what do we have available. Now, last year we did close our application, and I believe we closed it, I want to say March, April, which is earlier than we ever closed it before. Now, we will reopen it for specific populations, and so there are some people who maybe are in a learning community or in another program on campus where they have to live on campus as part of their program, and so they will still have the opportunity to apply. That doesn't mean they should wait.
That's right.
They should get that application in if they know they're in that program. So our Student Success Program is one of those, our SSS program. They're required to live on campus for summer B, fall, and spring. And so that application will remain open. But obviously they all start summer B, and so they're going to be completing their application definitely by June, because that's when they're going to move in.
Now, I just want to address, we're getting a lot of questions online, a lot of people asking about roommates and roommate groups. We are going to be talking about that a little bit later in the show, so we're just going to touch on the applications first, and I promise we will get to those questions. But a part of the application process, there are steps in order to be able to live on campus, and one of those steps is registering for orientation. We did have a question come in that says, is orientation mandatory? Yes, it is, but is it online or in person?
First year orientation for USF is in person, and so it is a one-day in person. If they have more questions about that, we always encourage them to reach out to the orientation office for orientation, and they'll assist them with getting that scheduled. And that registration process won't open until late February, and so keep an eye out on your email, because that's where orientation is going to reach out to you. And make sure, as a student at the university, make sure that you're looking at your university email account, because technically that's what we should be using with you. Now, admissions will continue to use the email account that you gave as part of your admissions package for a new student. But really, you should get used to, and if you don't want to look at the email for USF, forward it to the email that you do look at. And make sure you keep an eye on that, because financial aid will talk to you through that, and everybody needs money. Right. I know I do. And my son does, who comes to school here. But financial aid, registrar, orientation, housing, we will always use the USF email, because we know that doesn't change unless USF changed it. And then we'll know what the new one is. But we don't know if you've changed your personal email, or you stopped looking at it, or maybe it's mom and dad's. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you're looking at it.
Yeah, it's a good habit to get into, because you'll have to be checking it eventually.
Yeah.
On the topic of orientation, we have a question from Taylor. She asked, when will orientation dates be released if sign-up is in late February?
My guess would be sometime in February. Again, go to the orientation website. When you get to the usf.edu page, just type in the search bar orientation, and the information will come up. And you're going to, depending on what kind of student you are, if you're a first time in college, so someone who's just out of high school, hasn't earned 12 credits outside of high school yet, which means after high school graduation, you're considered what we call first time in college. If you've already earned 12 or more credits after high school graduation, then you're a transfer. And so you would look at the transfer information, not the first time in college or freshman orientation.
And again, that's all on the orientation
Correct.
website, if any of that is confusing for you. And now, Dave, I believe you're actually going to give us a real demo here of how to go through that application process.
So I'm going to get a screen live. So I'm going to have all the wizards in the background take me to a live site. But I'm going to start with just getting to a student where I can...
For those who are just joining us, Dave is walking us through what the application process will look like for you, just so you know what to expect if you haven't yet applied, or just how to work through anything that you may encounter when you're on the website trying to submit that application.
So this is the back side of our system, but none of you will see that from your end. But I'm just going to quickly get to a page where I know I can do an application for somebody who isn't attending right now, but we'll be able to see what's going on. Okay, so we're on the wrong one. Always get the wrong student when I do that, don't I?
Now, as we're talking, I just want to remind everyone that we are talking about the application process right now, but a little bit later on in the show, we're going to be touching on roommate groups, how you choose your roommate groups, how that process works. So if you have any questions about that, we are going to get to that a little bit later in the show, and Dave is actually going to do another demonstration for us, just walking us through what that would look like as well, so that you don't encounter any issues when you go in to select those roommate groups. That's going to be opening a little bit later this month. So knowing what you need to do before you go in to actually create that roommate group is a good idea. So if you're just joining us, we will be getting to that a little bit later on in the show today.
Okay. So here we are on the housing portal for Fake Guy. Now, depending on what campus you want to attend, that's the campus you want to go to, or I should say live at. Because as a student at the University of South Florida, you can live at any of the 3 campuses. And we do have housing at all 3 campuses now.
That's right. This would be
beginning this fall.
Yeah, a great time to mention our brand new campus on Sarasota Manatee. So in case you didn't know, this will be the first fall that will be opening a residence hall on that campus. And so if you want beautiful views of the bay, that is the place to live.
Matter of fact, since Sarasota Manatee, I don't have an application for that particular location, so I'm going to show what that application looks like. So once you're at the portal, you click Apply. The application comes up. Now, if you're going to the Tampa campus, it's going to come up with a selection of what application do you want to do. A fall, spring, a summer, a spring, maybe a summer, fall, spring. At the Sarasota campus, there's only one application right now, because they're just new for this upcoming fall. So it says, welcome to Fake Guy. You'll continue. You'll answer what gender you identify as. So Fake Guy's a guy, and he identifies as a male. Anywhere there's an asterisk, you want to make sure that you submit information for it. So we're going to ask you to give us your cell phone number so that we know how to contact you, because everybody checks their cell phone. But we're also going to ask for emergency contact information and missing student contact information. You don't have to give us that information, but if something happens to you and there's an emergency situation, we want to make sure we know who to call. And it doesn't have to be the same person, but we also ask for missing student contact information. And again, it's because maybe your emergency contact is someone more local, maybe a family member, whereas your missing student contact might be your parent or guardian. You don't have to give us that information, and they're only released under special circumstances. So don't worry that we're just going to up and call your parent or guardian just because. No, we only do that for special circumstances. We ask for hurricane information, hurricane evacuation plan information, and that's because, obviously, that's a big risk here. Now, USF Tampa has done a very good job with working with hurricanes. Matter of fact, our other 2 campuses send students to us to shelter at times. And because obviously Sarasota and St. Pete are on the water.
A little closer to the water than we are, that's right.
And so you'll put in all that information. You'll indicate how do you want to be contacted, and if it's okay for us to share your information with your roommate. Your information being your name and your email address. Phone number, address, that will not be shared. And we ask, would you accept text messages? So once you answer that information page, you're going to submit some preferences for roommate matching. Now, roommate matching, we're going to talk more about roommates later, I know. But this is really for when someone's going through room selection, they can actually see how you answered these questions. So if somebody's already in one of the beds in the unit, the apartment, the suite, the room, they can click on the bed and they'll see, how did this person answer the questions?
So you can kind of get an idea of who
maybe they'll match.
Yeah.
So maybe they're a smoker and you don't want to live with one. So if you already see that someone in that unit or apartment smokes, maybe you don't want to pick the empty bed in that apartment or unit. You can put in, for Sarasota, you can put in a roommate preference because they're new. It's a whole new process, but for Tampa, you wouldn't put any actual roommate preferences is. Well, that's what roommate groups are for. We'll talk about that later. And also, there's a learning community options section in the Sarasota site. In the Tampa, we say, are you interested? If so, we'll send you more information, because there is a separate application for Tampa for one of our 10 living learning communities.
Yeah, so Sarasota and Tampa, there are a few differences, but...
And then we'll show room preferences, and again, slightly different for Tampa. Oh, I guess I got to enter a preference because I didn't do that. Okay, and so...
And Dave, one thing to mention as we're kind of walking through this, how different is this application compared to our Tampa application? The base of it is
Functionally,
still...
it works the same.
Right.
So it's built on the same premise. The buttons at the bottom are the same. It just may ask for different information. Matter of fact, it'll ask for less information on the Tampa one because you're going to do more of that online by yourself instead of having to work with a staff member like we're going to do it at the Sarasota campus.
And on our website, both the Sarasota Manatee website and our Tampa website, we do have tutorials on exactly what Dave is walking through right now. So if you are interested in the Tampa application, we have a tutorial for that. And same thing for the Sarasota Manatee application as well.
And so we're going to ask you if you need a medical accommodation. If you click that box, it's going to send you an email saying, okay, this is how you do it. I'm not going to click that. Now you select your dining. First-year students are required to have a dining plan, so they will not see an opt-out option. Whereas a continuing student or a transfer could opt out or select one of the more numerous dining plans that are available. Our FTICs have options for any 14 or the unlimited plans, either the unlimited plan with, I think, $225 or $350 dining dollars. And so I need to select a plan here. I'm going to select that one, continue. Now I can review the application, and if there's something I don't like, I can go back and change it by clicking the back button. If I'm okay with that, I'll continue. And now this is really important for all of our listeners and viewers. Read over the dining agreement, the housing dining agreement. It's really important that you do that because this is basically the terms that you as a student are going to be agreeing to. And we've got a whole bunch of assertions here that you're going to check to say, yep, I agree to that, yep, I understand that, and so on and so forth.
But make sure you're reading as you're checking those boxes.
I wrote it so I know what they say, but specifically the cancellation information is really important because right now, by me submitting this application, I'm only on the hook for an application fee of $50.
Which is much different than that cancellation fee if you get passed and actually get assigned a room.
So if you then select a room at the Tampa campus, you're going to go in and select a room. Once you select a room, that's when cancellation fees can begin. Mm-hmm. So you have 48 hours to decide not to take that room. From the time you select, you can submit your cancellation. But after that, fees will apply. And you may or may not be able to cancel depending on your reason.
So after
it's really
48
important
hours,
to read that. Yes.
48 hours, that's what you have from the time you submit it until you're charged.
And so there we go. Everything's submitted. Now the next business day, that application will be charged a $50 application fee. And then the student will get an email saying it's been charged, and they can go on beginning at probably 10 a.m. that day because we charge it early in the morning. And a student then go on and pay it. Really important, though, especially for our first time in college that are coming in. You may have already paid a $200 tuition or university deposit or admissions deposit. That will not pay the $50 application fee. Even though it's sitting on your account as a credit, by our statutes at the university, that $200 cannot go toward the application fee. And so it can only go toward tuition. And so you will have to go in, even though it says you've got a credit of $150, you still have to go in and pay that fee.
And we have instructions on how to walk you through that. If you have any questions, again, on our website, we have a lot of instructional videos to help you along with this process. Now, I do want to take a little break to get to some of these questions we've been getting on Facebook and YouTube, Dave. Regarding the application, we have two questions that are a little similar, so I'm going to kind of join them together here. Clara and Allison are both asking for incoming freshmen, should you apply for housing even if you're not 100% committed to USF? And Clara is basically asking the same thing. If you haven't accepted that admissions yet, are you able to apply?
So really depends on if you come to USF, do you need to live on campus? And can you afford the $50 if you don't come to USF? Once you can cancel by not attending. That's certainly a good reason to cancel. I'm not going to be a student. I can't live in student housing. But if you select a room, that could be a large cancellation fee. But if you're not sure yet and you know you're going to make your mind up by the time we start room selection, which I believe is March 4th, then if you're going to make up your mind by March 4th and you want to be in line, then I would encourage all of our students apply now.
And I do want to touch on that for 1 second. I know we're not talking about room selection right now, but we did have a question regarding room selection. So can you just distinguish the two different time frames? Because we do have room selection for our first-year students and then also our continuing students as well.
Sure. So our continuing students pick from a different group of beds. So we have separated our beds out between continuing and first year, or what we call non-first year and first year beds. And so our transfers and continuing students will be in the non-first year beds, and our first years will be in first year beds. And so we do allow our continuing students to select first. They've been here. We're going to get them through the process before our first years, because they aren't required to do the orientation again because they've already done it. And once we get to March, that'll occur in February. Once we get to March, that's when our new students, our first years and our transfers, will begin to select.
Okay. Regarding the application again, Francis asks, do we do a housing application for spring and fall if we are also doing one for summer B?
Yes, you do the summer B as one application and a fall spring is a separate application. And do the fall spring first. We don't run out of summer housing, or at least we haven't. I don't think we will this year either. But we do run out of fall housing. And as a matter of fact, we do fall, spring before we do summer. Maybe then you have an opportunity maybe to be in the same room for summer that you are for fall and spring.
So always make the fall spring application your priority. How about roommates? I know we're going to touch on that later, but just so I don't lose this question in the chat, how many roommates are typically in a room?
It really depends on the room. And there's a couple different ways to think about it. There's the bedroom, and then there's the unit, which could be an apartment or a multi-bedroom suite. And so we have single rooms, double rooms, and triple rooms. That's the bedroom. So a single room has one, a double room has two, and a triple has three. We only have 4 triples on campus. So it's highly unlikely that our students are going to end up in a triple room. Now, our majority of our beds are in double rooms. So you'll have two beds in one bedroom. But and a majority of our single rooms are in apartment style. Matter of fact, probably 98.5% of them, if not more, are in apartment style. And so, and there is an announcement about apartment style, which I'll talk about in a little while. But so typically you'll have no more than, our units hold anywhere from one person, a single room, whether it's a suite, a traditional, we don't have a single apartment, up to 5 people in the unit, which would be a apartment in Kosov Hall. That could have anywhere of like a double and 3 singles, 2 doubles and a single, 2 singles, or that wouldn't work. 2 doubles and a single, yeah, that would be it. 3 singles and a double, or 2 doubles and a single.
A lot of different options.
Yeah.
Switching it back to summer for a second, we have a question regarding what term do you select if you're accepted into ACE?
You would actually do the summer ACE application. They have their own application because they come in July. They don't start in June. And so once you're coded in our system as an ACE student, then you'll do the ACE summer application.
And what about We have another question regarding if living on campus for the summer is a requirement.
Living on campus at all, unless you're in a particular program like the SSS program that I think I talked about earlier, living on campus is not required at all. We would love to have you up to 6,400 and I think 92, but beyond that, it's St. Pete and Sarasota as well.
And we have a question from Kelly. She says that she understands from the website that there are a limited number of single occupancy rooms in the village. Are those beds for FTIC or for continuing students?
There'll be a mixture of both. We do hold a lot of our what we call a single room, whether it's in a suite or a traditional. We hold a lot of those for our ADA requirements, for people who require it based on their either accessibility or medical accommodation.
And if you do have one of those, you can always, like you showed us while you were walking through the application, check that while you're in the application that you do need an accommodation.
We'll check that in the application, then you'll submit additional documentation requesting an accommodation. Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to get through all these application questions, and I promise if you've asked a question about roommates, roommate groups, we are going to get to it, but I want to make sure we answer all the application questions while we're still on this topic. We have another question regarding room selection. Could you please tell me again the date for when continuing students are allowed to select their rooms for the fall semester?
The earliest selection date for continuing students, I believe right now, is set to February 19th. We'll be sending out more information about that, and we'll also be updating the website with that information very soon. But we're still trying to just make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row, because we know we have lots of ducks here at USF, and we got to make sure they're walking in a straight line before we can release that information.
But pay attention to your email. If you've applied, you'll be receiving an email with more information. You will know well before it's time to make those selections, so don't worry. Jada asks, is everyone waiting until we can register for orientation for the housing application to be complete?
No. We've already received, I think, almost 900 first-year applications for the fall at this point. Those applications have been available since admittance has been sent out, which was December 8th. Wow. And so, we're getting close to 1,000 applications already.
Yeah, so if you are wanting to live on campus, apply. Now is the time to do it. Sooner, better than later. So we're going to transition for a second. If you have application questions, please still send them in. We'll get back to them. But we did have a couple questions about living learning communities. And so I know that you showed the Sarasota Manatee application, and our Tampa application is a little bit different than that when it comes to LLCs. You did mention that. But in case people are just joining, if they do want to live in an LLC, a living learning community, can they apply for more than one? And how do they apply?
So we have that checkbox on the application, the housing application itself, but that is actually not the application for Tampa. Sorry. Ooh, allergies.
It's that time.
What will happen is once you submit a housing application, then you can actually go and apply for as many LLCs as you want to. Now, obviously, if you're not in the Honors College, don't apply for the Honors LLC because you're not going to get in. If you're not in a nursing major or a pre-nursing major, you're probably not going to get into the nursing LLC. So obviously apply for the ones that apply to you and that you're interested in. And not all of them are academic based. Some of them are, what do we call that? Interest-based.
Yeah.
Yeah. So ROTC is a great example of an interest-based. It's not a major here at USF, but it's really nice that all these people that have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go do PT get up together and not wake up their roommate who doesn't have any interest in working out at 5 a.m.
Yeah, that would not be the most ideal situation. So living with each other, having those similar interests, it's a great community to be in. We did have a question regarding LLCs again, saying, do pre-med path students qualify for LLC?
So we have something called Rising Health Professionals, and that would be the LLC you'd probably want to join. Or if your major because pre-med's not a major here. If your major is in health science, maybe you want to do the public health LLC as well. That's another option.
So on our website, we do have a list of all the different LLCs that are available. If you want to watch the video that's there to get an idea of what it's about, there's also a short blurb on the first page, and you can click and read even more about it to just see if that might be a good fit for you. So if you're interested in joining an LLC, go explore that page and see if any of those LLCs would be a good fit.
Yes.
Donna asks, if you're living in a sorority house, how do you choose that?
So actually, Greek Village is not part of room selection. So what will happen is when you apply to live in one of our sororities or fraternities, they will, need to be a member in order to apply. And so when you put in that application, then they'll have a roster that they give to us, and then we'll assign you once you're on that roster.
And then we're going back to summer really quick, but we want to make sure we get this answered. They've been admitted into summer, but they don't have any information if it's A or B. So where can they find that out?
If you are a first-time in college student, you're admitted for summer B. If you're a transfer, you're admitted for any part of summer. If you're an ACE student, you're admitted for the ACE program for summer B, unless you choose not to participate in the program.
Okay. We have a question about My Bulls Path on here. Jada asks, how do I register for orientation if my card in My Bulls Path is locked?
It's locked right now because registration is not open.
So that will unlock when it is open.
Yep.
So just pay attention to your email again, and you'll know when that
Or pay attention to My Bulls Path. It'll tell you when it's available.
Yeah, keep an eye on both. Always a good idea. Okay, so we're going to switch a little bit to what type of rooms are available. And the next thing we're getting to, I promise, for those of you who have been waiting since the beginning, is roommate groups. So we're almost there. What type of room options are available for first-time and college students, and then also for continuing students as well?
Sure. So I'm going to talk fall, spring. For fall and spring, the room options that are available for our first-time and college students are what most people call new freshmen, are suites and traditional style. That is a shift from our previous practice, but in the past we've held very few apartment beds for our incoming freshman class, and this year, because of the demand, we've decided to make the decision to not offer apartments to our incoming first years. For our continuing students, apartments, suites, and traditionals are available.
And I know this is going to be a little bit of a long question to answer, so what I'm going to say is give us a good idea of this answer, and then I'm going to direct you to our website because there's a lot of information there. But Christy asked, can you give an overview of the different buildings and communities on campus, or are they all the same? And I know we have a lot of buildings, so that would be a lot to get through. That's why our website is a great resource. But could you give us a more general idea of the different communities here on campus?
Well, Christy, come see me. We'll spend the whole day talking about that. So, no, not every building is different. Every building has unique community, and a lot of times that community is really built by who's in it that year. So one year, Poplar can be an incredible community, and the next year it can be a little different. And it's really because the community is built by the people who are in it. And so all of our buildings have a great option. They're all a great option. We have the Village is very popular because they're newer buildings. It's by Publix. It's by a really fancy dining hall. They're large buildings. They have some amenities on the first floor that maybe you don't see in other buildings. But Poplar, which is very popular, also is a great option. Unfortunately, Poplar has a lot of our learning communities in it as well, just like Juniper does, and so that option is less available because of the fact that it's got so many LLCs. Nice part is LLCs are almost all first-year students, and so with an exception of a few of our programs, but the majority of them are first years, and so you're getting a great opportunity to really get your foot into the door really quickly here at USF. And so those communities may actually follow because you're going to create a friend group. and we're going to do roommate matching in a minute. And that can follow into consecutive years. And, maybe you create that great friend group in beta. And then you're like, guys, let's upgrade next year. We're going to go to an apartment because it wasn't available for this year. And so let's go live in Cypress. Cypress has, if you're a cook, best kitchen we have on campus. It's got a whole wall of cabinets. I wish I had that in my house. Because storage is always at a premium when you're a cook. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. Do you want all the amenities? Are you good with maybe less amenities but more socialization? A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to live in a traditional style. I don't want to go down the hall to the bathroom. But you know what? You meet people in a traditional style, because everybody has to leave their room to go to the bathroom.
Quickest way to make friends.
And you're not going to go to the bathroom with them,
right.
But you're going to be in go into the same room. You're going to brush your teeth at the sink that next to the person who's brushing their teeth too. And once you get all the toothpaste out of your mouth, you're going to maybe talk to them. And so there are lots of opportunities for interaction in a traditional style that you may not see in a suite style or a apartment style. And so that's actually one of the reasons why traditional is the one we want to have our FDICs in our first years, because they don't know people yet.
And it's a great way to make friends. And when you have to leave your room, you don't have an option but to talk to people.
That's right.
So, Taryn asked, is there a single suite option for first-year students?
We do not have, outside of the village where we might have a single room with a private bath, that's the only single suite option we have on campus. Okay. We just don't have a lot of singles outside of apartment style.
We have a question from Jazzy. They ask, what if you plan to join the marching band? Do they get to move in early? And if so, where do we find that out? So more of a general athletics question. How does that work if you're involved in a sport or a organization?
So our early arrival begins the Sunday before opening for the fall. And so we open on Thursday, I think the 22nd this fall. And so early arrival, I think, begins on the 18th, which is that Sunday before. Marching band starts on the 18th. So you want to arrive that day. It is an additional fee to arrive early. You don't need a reason to arrive early. You just need to apply so that we can set you up so that your access is ready to go and that our staff are expecting you. And that'll be an entire part of, we're going to ask all of our students once they're assigned over the summer, we're going to say, okay, now tell us, when are you coming? And if you're coming early, fill out this form as well, which is all part of the same form, to say, yes, I agree, I'm going to pay for the additional nights. Now, if you're an athlete, let's say football comes in typically sometimes as early as the middle of summer, but others come back and may move onto campus even earlier than that, like right at the end of summer B. And so that'll all be arranged through your coach. But for things like marching band, or you've got a job on campus, or you're in a club or organization that needs to meet before the semester begins, that's when you just complete your early arrival request form.
And really quickly, I just want to touch on this since we're on this topic. Taylor asks, are there extended housing options for band members between semesters when the band, or really any athletics, need to be on campus for a bowl game?
So yes, this was the first year we did it, and I think it was fairly successful. If you need to stay for the break, we had every building open, where in previous years, we would only open up a handful of buildings. We left everything available, and as long as there were students that wanted to stay in the building, we would keep the building open.
All right, now I'm going to switch gears here a little bit because I want to leave enough time for roommate group questions, because I know that's what a lot of people are wondering about, and we do want to wrap the show around 7, so want to get to as many questions as we can. So, Dave, can you walk us through what this roommate process is and explain to folks who may have never had to go through this before what it is?
Sure. So, there are a lot of places out there that will have a a software or something that will help students match to other students. And we're looking into that here at USF, but we haven't gotten that yet. So right now we rely on our students to make those connections on their own, and then once they find a friend group, they can create what we call a roommate group. And so I'm going to actually walk you through that a little bit. So right now I'm on the housing website, and I know the folks behind the curtain are going to switch me over so you can see the website. I'm going to go to the housing portal. This is just one of the different ways you can get to the housing portal. You can go through My Bulls Path, you can go through My USF, or you can go straight to the housing website. And so here I am, screen demo.
And just so everyone knows, this process is not open.
Not open yet until January 22nd.
Okay, so we're giving you a little heads up as to how this will work, but it's not going to open for a few weeks.
It'll work for me because I made it that way. But so once you're on the campus portal for Tampa, you'll go to My Account. And then you'll scroll down and go to Roommate Group Manager. This may also work for St. Pete. We're still working with them to determine what kind of online option they might make for room selection. I believe it's going to be for their first years, but more to come. They'll send that information. So there's only one roommate group available right now, which is 2425. Now, you're going to see that on your screen right now. But when you click on it, you're not going to get to this, where you're going to get to a page that says you have no access. It's too early. Wait till January 22nd. But because I made it possible, here we are in the roommate group creator. And it gives you all the information here about what you're going to do and what you need to do. So creating a group, joining a group, leaving a group, and removing someone else from the group. As a group leader, you can do that. And it has some common questions that we answer. And so here it is, your roommate groups. Right now, I don't have any. What's really important to know here is you cannot create a roommate group unless your application is what we call ready to assign. And so there is a quick and easy way to figure out, is my application ready to assign? And I'm going to leave this for a second. I'm going to go back to the home page, go to My Applications. I'm going to go to Application Status, Fall, Spring, because that's what I'm looking at. And there's my Fall, Spring application status. And it's going to tell me, okay, how is my application? Am I ready? I am ready to be assigned. It says it right there. Don't worry that I didn't select a meal plan. I did it really quick. But there it says I'm ready to assign, and so I can go and actually complete my housing, request a roommate.
And just to clarify, Dave, ready to assign means you've paid the fee, you've registered for orientation, you've filled out the agreements.
Yep, so your agreement's complete. Now, for our people who are under 18, that means your parent or guardian, who you indicated, has also agreed to it. Once you turn 18, if that's not completed, you can just contact us and we can complete it for you in writing. But until you're 18, we ask that a parent or guardian also reviews it. And obviously, you submitted the application and paid your fee. So, yeah, those 4 items are done. So now I'm going to go back and get into that roommate group manager. Now, we do make an allowance for our incoming first years and new students to be able to form groups prior to orientation opening. However, if you go to select a room and people in your roommate group have not done the orientation registration, you will not be able to assign them, even though they were part of your group.
And that's the same if they haven't paid their fee as well.
If they haven't paid their fee, they're not even going to get into the group. Yeah. We'll make an allowance for the orientation part because that doesn't open up until a month later or so. But we're not going to make an allowance for the application fee or the agreement. Those have to be done as well as the application itself.
So make sure you've checked all your boxes, but also make sure that your intended roommates have checked their boxes as well.
So once you're here on this page, you say, okay, if you're going to create the group, you can create your group. You click on the button and you invite people. Simple as that. Now, if you know their name, great. But if your friend's name is Will Smith, you might get a few Will Smiths. It's not that uncommon a name. especially when there's a famous Will Smith out there. But if you know their university ID number, that also would work. So I pretty much know that there's only one person on campus, or at least in this database, that's named Fake Guy. So I'm going to search for Fake Guy. I found Fake Guy, and I'm going to submit and request that Fake Guy join the group. It says he can't because he does not have the correct application. It's either not completed, not submitted, or not completed. So I'm going to say, okay, I still know someone else named Screen Test. Search for Screen Test. Found Screen Test. I'm going to submit. Screen Test isn't good either. So there's something wrong with one of their applications. So if that was working, it would say, great, they've now been invited. When you invite a person, they're going to get an email saying, you've been invited to join a group by so and such. In my case, it would be Screen Demo. You can either click on the link in that email to go to the housing portal or go to the housing portal. And then here you'll see, do I want to accept the invitation or decline the invitation? If you accept it, then you're part of Screen Demo or part of your friend's group. If you decline it, you're not part of the group. The important thing is, whatever you do, everybody else in the group will get that information as well. For us in the housing office, we love this feature because in the past, when this software first came out, they would share what was called a PIN number. So, my PIN number is 1428, and I give it to you if you were a guy, because we can't live together as a male and female. But let's say you're going to select for me, you put in the PIN number, and it doesn't work because I didn't have the heart to tell you that I don't want to live with you, so I just changed it on you. And you didn't know. And then you come to me and say, or come to the housing office and say, it didn't work, what's going on? And then we'd have to tell you, you've been unfriended.
So this way, it's a lot simpler.
It's very open, and people know what's going on because they can see what's happening in their email or on the screen about who's in the group, who's not in the group.
So I know we have a lot of questions about this process, about what you can and cannot do, but I do want to address this one question that's a clarification that says they've completed their housing application for summer, they've paid the fee, their application status summary says that they are not registered for orientation. So they said, so to be clear, are they good until orientation opens on February 26th?
Yes. They've done everything they can.
Until that orientation opens, you can't
and
register.
Should we create an opportunity for roommate groups in the summer, then you, in theory, as of January 22nd or thereabouts, you could actually form a roommate group for your summer application too. We haven't decided on whether or not we're going to do that yet.
Clara asked, do I have to make a roommate group as an FTIC, or can I have a random roommate assignment, and how common is it to make a roommate group?
You don't have to have a roommate group. It's not all that common, especially for our incoming students. And believe it or not, it's not that common for our continuing students either. A lot of students either don't take the time or spend the energy to get a roommate group together. Some people are very fine with what's called a random. It's a whole new term that I learned a few years ago. I didn't want a random. But when it comes to roommates, and I've been doing housing now for 27 years, 95% of the time, the roommate pairings work just fine, even when they're random. It all depends on the individuals. Kind of like with the community, if you're a flexible person who's willing to compromise on some things, and your roommate is the same way, you're going to have a great roommate pairing. If you are someone who wants it your way or the highway, you're never going to have a good roommate pairing unless the person that you're living with just lets you roll over them constantly. And don't expect that you're going to get a roommate like that. you want to be open and honest, and hopefully they will be open and honest. And I had great roommates in college. I lived on campus all my years, undergraduate and graduate school. Now, graduate school, I had a single for a year, and then I lived in an apartment, which I had my own bedroom, but I did share it with others. And I still talk to my roommates, even though I knew none of them before I got there.
It's a great way.
As I was attending, yeah, I lived with the same person my junior year and my senior year, because we formed a roommate group. We went to room selection together, and that's the way we did it. And that's the way things are going to happen here for all of our students. And you're going to form those relationships that are probably going to last a lifetime.
Sometimes you may find friends in unexpected places, so sometimes it's good to just take a chance and see. But this is also a great way, if you do have friends that you want to live with, to do that as well. Someone asked if you have to be in a roommate group in order to select housing.
No, you don't. Now, we do give an opportunity for roommate groups to select earlier on, so maybe a day or two earlier. And we do that because we don't want an individual to maybe take one room in a 4-person suite, and now 4 people can't select a 4-person suite. That happened a lot in the past. And so now we did this for the first time last year. It worked really well. And so we're going to continue to do that. Now, we don't get thousands of people that select as roommate groups. We maybe get a few hundred people that select as roommate groups. So you're not losing out on the opportunity to get a room. But if you know people you want to live with, we always say if you create the roommate group or the roommate pairing, it should be more successful than if you never did.
Julie asks if there was a way to meet people through the portal to see if you'd be a good match or if it's just completely random.
In the housing portal, there is not a way. But we do have some social media opportunities.
That's right. I was going to let you answer and then plug that. If you are a first-time in college student, a great place to join would be our class of 2028, I believe, Facebook page. You can get connected with other fellow incoming students, meet people. This is a great way to just kind of get your feet wet as to who may be in your class as well. But we also have that Facebook page for all of our other classes as well. I'm assuming if you've been on campus for a while, you probably know some people, but as an incoming freshman who's never been here before, this is a great way to get connected and see if you might want to live with some people. So that is a great resource to check out. Obviously, you can follow us on our social media too. We have a lot of engagement on there as well, but just a great place to meet people. A few other roommate questions for you, Dave. Can returning students form a roommate group with a freshman and still be able to pick on the returning student date?
Yes. Yes, you can. We have many students that are maybe a year apart from their best friend in high school, and why should they be not permitted to live together? In fact, that would probably be the only way that a freshman could possibly get into an apartment.
Okay, Leanne asks, when do roommate groups open for continuing students?
They all open on January 22nd.
So mark that date on your calendar, January 22nd.
You'll be getting information via email as well, so anybody who's applied will be making sure that we get that email out to them, reminding them that roommate groups do open that day, and what the process and procedure would be to create those groups, even though I just went over it. And I know there's a video on our website about it as well.
There is. If you have any questions, obviously we are more than happy to answer them outside of this stream as well, so feel free to email or call us.
And for our continuing students, if you want help, come into our office. We have a couple of IMACs ready to go to help people. They can do it right there with someone helping them out, and we're more than happy to do that between 9 and 4, Monday through Friday.
Some friendly faces in there ready to help you if you need it. Jenny asks, is orientation different than the admitted student days? And if not, and if registered for admitted student days, will this be updated in the housing portal if orientation is required?
Orientation is different than admitted student days. Admitted student days are ways for students who are maybe not sure that a USF is where they want to go, to give them another opportunity to visit the campus, talk to academic partners, talk to housing, take a look at a building. We do show Pinnacle Hall during our admitted student days. but it's just an opportunity, whereas orientation is I'm meeting with my academic major, with my, well, actually they don't meet with the academics that day, but I'm learning about all the steps and procedures and policies that the university has regarding being a student at the university. You're meeting other students, it's a whole day of activities and information. You will hear from housing, well, your families and guests will hear from housing, but you'll see the dean of students, you'll see folks from activities and so on. And so it's actually a very helpful day. And I hope you all look forward to attending. And that orientation will be in June and July.
All right, we do have a question from Terry. They asked, can grad students starting in August 2024 also put in for housing at this time?
They can. We actually have a few apartments set aside for graduate students. And so we will reach out to you regarding those. Those would not be available during room selection.
So again, if you have any questions about specific populations like that, feel free to reach out and we can answer it more specific on a case-by-case basis. I believe we have gotten through all of the roommate group questions that we have here. Oh, I lied. One more question from Donna.
You
Donna,
just misspoke. You didn't lie.
if someone is rooming with someone in the sorority house, so again, Greek, do they need to make a roommate group?
Again, no, because you'll just want to make sure that your organization knows who you want to room with, and they will hopefully be putting you on that roster together. And remember, you're going to be moving in actually on that Sunday before grand opening for the rest of the residence halls, and that's when the Greek room assignments begin, which will be on that Sunday before grand opening.
Okay, we also have another question regarding room selection. What is the deadline for selecting rooms in the spring semester?
Boy, you mean for the fall in the spring, I'm guessing.
What is the deadline for selecting rooms for the spring semester? Yeah.
Okay, so I'll answer two different viewpoints. So obviously we do room selection for fall in the spring, so I'm going to answer that first because that's what we've really been talking about. Mm-hmm. My suggestion is you want to select as soon as you can based on your time. Once your time comes, you can select any time thereafter until we close room selection. Now, in the past, because we have such high demand, we've had to close room selection. And when we close room selection, then we go on what's called a standby list. And so you submit a form saying, yes, assign me to the next room that's available, and we'll try to work through that list. Again, kind of like a waiting list. But so really, if you want to wait until June, you're not going to be able to wait till June. Like I said, last year we closed the application in March or April. That's also when room selection ended, and we did a standby list from that point forward. And so you want to make sure that you take advantage of the opportunity to select a room, because I don't know how long it's going to last, because our demand has been that great.
Yeah, the key word here is don't wait, apply early, get everything done when it's happening. That is your best chance to live on campus.
The only reason I would wait is if you're not sure USF is where you want to go to school. Because remember, you only have that 48 hours, and we'll talk more about that in 2 weeks, mm-hmm. I believe. Shameless plug for 2 weeks from today. But we'll talk more about room selection and all those policies then. But and I went through this last year with our incoming students and our continuing students. But if you know that USF is your school and you want to live on campus, select your room. If you know that USF is your school but you're not sure you want to live on campus, don't just select a room and think you can change your mind later. You have that 48-hour window to change your mind, otherwise you may not be able to. Or if you are able to, it's going to cost you a lot. And I don't want to bill people for changing their mind. If you are not sure about USF, but you want to make sure that housing's an option, put in your application now, as long as you can. $50 isn't too much for your pocket. But make your decision before room selection begins. And that's going to be the same really for whatever college you're looking at in the state of Florida. or really beyond, I talk to people throughout the Southeast every month that are in similar jobs that I am in. And this is the problem we all have, is housing demand is outpacing our supply, our capacity. And so how do we deal with that? Who do we give rooms to? These are the problems that all of us are dealing with right now. And so I know it stinks. You really have till May 1st to pay that admissions deposit for really most of the schools out there. But we're going to ask you to make that decision probably by March 1st, because if you don't, we can't guarantee there's going to be a bed for you.
We have a few more questions that I want to get through before we end our stream today. And I just want to say that if we don't get to your question, because I see them continuing to roll in, so we will answer them outside of this chat. So don't worry, you will get your answers. Megan asks, her daughter was accepted for the spring semester and she was told that applying for housing wouldn't open until September. Will there be rooms available?
So spring admission is interesting here at USF. We just opened up for spring. We were able to assign all but 39 men that requested housing, or requested housing and didn't cancel housing because they found something else. Now, there may have been more people that wanted to live on campus, but they couldn't wait and they found other options off campus. We typically bring in anywhere from 400 to 500 new assignments every spring. And those are from rooms that are vacated after the fall, those who graduate, because we do graduate people at the end of the fall as well, those who get homesick or they transfer because they determined that maybe they've changed the major and it's not here at USF, or maybe they've gone to another campus at USF, because there are 3 of them. And so the options are what we have. It's not as wide open as a fall spring selection, where you have a plethora of options. So there may not be as many options, but we are usually able to accommodate a large majority of the people who apply.
And to clarify, that's the spring-only application that
Correct.
would be opening later in the fall in September.
Yeah, usually it opens in September. It may open in beginning of October instead this year, because we are changing software. The software that I just showed and that I've been showing for years will be changing for next year.
But not anytime soon. So everything you just
Not
showed
until-
is still...
Not until probably September, October.
Okay, Cassidy asks, would you be able to choose which hall you would like to live in for fall and summer semesters during that room selection?
Fall, spring selection is one room selection process. Summer is a completely different one, and there'll be different options available. But you'll have to participate in 2 different selection processes, one for summer, one for fall. Now, I can say that there will be apartments, regardless of who you are, for the summer. And so you may have an option as a first year for an apartment in the summer where you won't for the fall.
Yeah, so just know if you are in that apartment for the summer, that's not where you will
Only
be
for the summer.
staying when
Correct.
fall semester starts. Okay, last question from our social media. And again, if we don't get to yours, we will respond in the chat. But Clara asks, if I want to do my housing application now and apply for an honors LLC, but I don't know if I'm accepted for honors yet, should I still do the housing application now?
I would encourage you to do it, because if you're not in the honors LLC, then you're going to need to select a room. And so if you are getting an invite to join the honors college, more than likely you're going to get in. I don't think they send it to someone who doesn't have a shot. And so I would encourage you to do the housing application, get your place in line, so to speak. And you can't do the honors LLC application until you've done the housing application. Now, you'll do the honors college application, which is something else. That puts you in the honors college. But the honors LLC, you'd have to apply for after you do the housing application for sure.
That housing application is the crucial first step.
Right, that's the first step. That puts you in housing, in the realm of housing possibility. And then the LLC actually is a great way to get housing even after room selection, because those rooms aren't available during room selection. And so, the Bulls business community has 100 beds. Honors has almost 400 beds. Now that is a room selection process, but it's separate. ACE has beds, engineering, and the list goes on. We have 10 wonderful LOCs, and then we have a few other programs that are in the buildings. If you're an athlete, if you're a scholarship athlete, talk to your coach. Am I living on campus? Because they may also have a bed for you. Now, coach will not do your application for you. You still have to do that for yourself. But they may have a bed for you, so you do want to talk to your coach.
Now, I know you've said it a few times. We've been answering some questions a little bit today about room selection, but clearly this is a topic that we need to talk about. A lot of people have questions about, and that is exactly what we're going to be talking about in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So just as a reminder, because we did get several questions in the chat, what are the 2 room selection dates for our 2 groups of students, our returning and our first year?
I'm going to refer to my notes here. Currently, selection for roommate groups for continuing students begins on the 19th of February. That's our current plan. And general selection, so individuals would be able to select beginning on the 26th of February, I believe. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And then for our new students, that would include our transfers and our first time in college, that begins on March 4th with roommate groups. And then March 6th, much smaller population, tend to come in as roommate groups. And so it's a shorter process. On March 6th would be individual selection.
And again, we're going to talk all about this.
We'll talk all about that. We'll have emails sent out. You'll be given what times you can actually. So, and I'll do a preview. Room selection is based on you're given a time and date that you can begin to select your room. Now, it takes a few minutes to select a room. But if you're going to hem and haw and not decide right away, from the time that your time slot starts until you're assigned or the process ends, you're good to select. Just don't wait too long. And just because we give you a time slot doesn't mean that we're still going to have room selection going on, especially if you're in a later slot. Doesn't mean that room selection is still going to be going on. If beds run out, beds run out.
And of course, we're going to dive into this a little bit deeper because it's a lot more than just a one-sentence explanation. So that's what, if you guys have questions about that, in 2 weeks, we're going to be touching on that. And we'll have Dave back with us again.
Yep, and I'll make sure that roommate group process works because it'll only be 2 days since it opened, but I'll make sure it's working and that all my test subjects will be able to accept a roommate group. But we'll make sure everything's going to work out.
Well, Dave, we appreciate you. Thank you for your knowledge, answering all our questions.
Sure.
And if anyone has any questions, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you and the office?
They can always reach out to the office by phone at 813-974-0001. And yes, we're number 1. But those are between the hours of 9 and 4, Monday through Friday. You can always email us at housing@usf.edu. You can, of course, come into the office between 9 and 4 and talk to one of our wonderful staff members. You can catch us at Admitted Student Day. We'll be at orientation. And you can always just reach out to us. All of our contact information is on our website. And certainly go to the website. And don't forget social media.
That's right.
Because I know that your staff does an amazing job getting all of our information out on social media so that our students can see that and respond to it. And there are a lot of questions that are asked on the Facebook groups as well. Don't forget that there are a lot of students out there that have already been through this, and so they know a lot of the rules and procedures. Now, don't take them at face value because they may not be right every time, but you can certainly follow up with those questions with our office.
It's a good place to get connected, and of course, we'll get you the right information.
Yep.
Dave, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we'll see you very soon.
All right. See you in a couple of weeks.
And if you have any further questions, like Dave said, please feel free to reach out to our office by email at housing@usf.edu or by phone at 813-974-0001. Be sure to join us on January 24th at 6 p.m. for the next episode of USF Housing Live, where we will discuss room selection. You can watch on our Facebook or YouTube page or the USF Parent and Family Engagement Facebook page. USF Housing Live is produced by Housing and Residential Education at the University of South Florida in Tampa. Our motto is best place to live, best place to work, best place to learn. Thank you to tonight's guest for joining me this evening. Thank you to our production crew, to you, our viewers, and of course, there's always just one last thing. Go Bulls. Good night, everyone.